Hey everyone! So I am here in Vienna with Martin Zellner, the leader of the Austrian identitarian movement, and we're here right after the Defend Europe Alps mission. We've just been hanging out, talking politics, philosophy, with a few interruptions of the police trying to arrest Martin between talks. But it happens sometimes, you know? But one of the big talks we've been having that I thought would make for a great discussion on video is about millennial angst and whether or not the kind of existential crises that face millennials are different from that of past generations. I've always had this idea that you have to pull yourself up by your bootstraps. You have to get over it, stop being these SJW crybabies, and just move on with life. But over the past few years, when I've really kind of considered the introduction of the internet in the 90s for millennials, the introduction of kind of more materialistic ideas, the changing of our universities, maybe the millennial crisis is a little different than that of past generations. And of course, you have some strong thoughts on this, as you are a philosophy, you have a degree, bachelor, the expert, and a degree in becoming a barista. Luckily, that wasn't your fate.
You always say, no. They always say in Austria with a bachelor's in philosophy, you get a taxi driving license, just in the package. And of course, as a German, I'm an expert on angst, because it's a very German feeling. But we have been talking about this issue. I think it's a center issue. I completely agree with you. I think our generation has been facing a different struggle. We are a tragic generation. If you look at the basic two moods that would describe millennials, I think it would be being cynical and being bored. These are the basic two moods, and they're always the side effects of nihilism, of having no value, nothing to die for, then you also have nothing to live for. Or as Viktor Frankl, an Austrian philosopher and psychotherapist, said, we have all the means to live, but we have no meaning in life. And that's what I think is the big difference between this generation now and our boomer parents. We are really feeling this nihilism now coming to the surface.
Right, and when I look at millennials, you see this whole SJW behavior. We quite literally have cry closets at universities, and it makes me think they're exaggerating. They're just being silly and ridiculous. But really, when we look at the whole thing, the SJW phenomenon, having 72 genders, really being obsessed with superficial ideas being Z's or Zer, it's kind of a symptom of a desperation for an identity. I don't know, what do you make of that?
Totally. It's, as you say, it's a desperate struggle for an identity, and they're pampered by society. They're allowed to have all the lusts fulfilled, and they have the freedom to choose between McDonald's and Burger King. They have all the freedom from duties, but they have no freedom to a real identity. If you really want to have an uprooted identity, a true identity, if you're searching for truth and meaning in life, then you very soon become labeled an extremist. And this is what the society is not offering us. They're offering everything we want to have, from apps to fast food. But when we're really looking for meaning in society, we don't find it. And that's even drives some people to become Muslims, because in the Western civilization, as great and big as it is, and I love it, at the moment there's no truth, there's no value, there's just nihilism and decadence.
Right. If you want to have a community and say, this community has a unique identity and I want to protect that, even the state will lash out against you and say, no, diversity is our strength. Even having just a family today.
There's no core, there's no value, nothing. It's just our openness is our own value. And that's also a part of this nihilism, that when we're really searching for this forbidden fruit in this postmodern Elysium we're living in, true identity, true truth, and rooted identity, then we are very soon banned or get arrested like me on the weekends.
So how would you, because when I talk to the other generations about this, they say really they went through the same crisis of existential problems that we do. But how would you frame this differently and describe it differently since the age of the internet, since the age of getting into even later stages of crony capitalism, where just everything, we have everything we want and none of it is enough, none of it is deeper. You can get married to whatever gender you want, you have all of the pornography in the world, you have all of the sex clubs ever, all of the drinking you can do, and none of it is enough.
And still people are bored.
Yes.
And sad, and the suicide rates are rising. And I think the reason why boomers had a different experience is because they were living in what we can call an heroic phase of liberalism, where they were in a parasitic way still chewing and living on these old ideals of the male, you know, like these action hero figures, you know, all this pop cultural 90s stuff. That's also why synthwave is so popular at the moment, because it reminds us at a still a little bit healthy phase of this old liberalist civilization, but without its enemies like communism, fascism, and so on. It's very soon is started to die off, and we were growing up in the total phase of postmodernism, where even the shades of old ideals were gone. And the second thing, also on a material political level, is that we were growing up within and under the shadow of the Great Replacement. So while for our parents, multiculturalism was a very local phenomenon. You can just go away from multiculturalism. In our society, in our time, you cannot flee anymore from multiculturalism. And this also makes a very distinct, very special experience of our generation.
It's very interesting to think of the idea that they were living off the fumes of greater civilizations, and you really think that has completely puttered out.
Totally.
What comes after that?
They were living off the social capital amassed by generations of conservatives. And a famous German philosopher once said, you need just one generation of liberalism to destroy hundreds of generations of conservatism. What comes after this is a total and final decision. If the West can find value and truth in itself again, and create this binding force of community and ableness and willingness to fight again, and not just to flee and just let everything happen, this apathy and appeasement that we see today in our politicians. And I think the only way to this is through the political fight against mass immigration, and also, of course, by going again into arts, into philosophy, and trying to open ourselves again to the richness of our cultural heritage.
Thank you so much, Martin, for that. Is there any other advice you maybe want to offer to millennials, just so we can wrap this video up? Because we are living in the age of consumption and people only watch videos under 10 minutes. So are there any last bits you kind of want to add to help millennials with this angst they feel?
Yeah. Of course, I'm mostly directed to people who are interested already in this, and consider themselves in a way right wing. To those who are already active, keep being active, but start reading. And to those who are just reading and doing intellectual work, start getting active. Because only both levels, the fight on the political level against massive immigration and on the spiritual level against decadence and nihilism, I think only both combined can save us.
Thank you so much, Martin, for that. I hope you guys enjoyed this video and this conversation. If you want to see more of Martin, where could people find you?
They can find me on Twitter, Martin Sellner, and then on YouTube I have an English-speaking channel, Martin Sellner GI. Generation Identity, nothing military. At the moment I cannot post there anymore because the Austrian police thought it would be a good idea to confiscate all my material, but there will be videos coming soon again.
It's actually a bit of a ridiculous story. I feel so bad. I was working with Martin in a cafe just typing some stuff out, and I look up after like an hour of working and I'm like, where'd Martin go? Well, he must have gone to the washroom or something. That's fine. I go back to typing, and a few minutes later, I get a call on my phone, and Martin's like, I've been taken away and arrested by the Austrian police. I didn't even notice Martin being arrested and taken away while I was working. I'm so sorry. I didn't even notice.
It means how busy you are and how deep you were into your work, but in doubt, when I'm gone, it's always something political.
Of course, of course. Anyways, thank you so much, Martin. Definitely go and check out his content, and I will see you guys next time.